One of the most important issues that human beings need to come to terms with is any mature human being will unavoidably end up a seeker, right? Seeking knowledge, wisdom, understanding, that kind of thing. But the search doesn't occur in a vacuum. You're searching because you're ignorant, right?
Right.
Now, a feature of the ignorance is that you're ignorant of the nature, the nature of the ignorance motivating the search for knowledge. Now, while ignorant, the ignorant definition of ignorance is one where you say you know a certain amount about reality and truth, right? But you just need to learn more. You got to read more, study more, that kind of thing, right? So that defines ignorance in a kind of passive mode. What you don't know about what you already know. What many people don't realize is that the ignorance exists as what you know.
Or what
Right?
you think you
The,
know. Or what you.
yeah, the ignorance exists as what you know because every human being is indoctrinated. You learn the world. With the learning a language, you learn to interpret the meaning of things in terms of the cultural prescription, and that leads to what I call a psychological citizen. In other words, you and the people around you can agree on things because you're using the same terminology, the same concepts, and the same ideas. Right? So the ignorance motivating the search is really a reflection that the information that you've been indoctrinated with is not factual. So something is lacking, and you tell yourself, well, what lacking is I had to read more. Not that the information you already have is the ignorance motivating the search for knowledge. That being so, what it means is that, and it also tallies with the fall of man. The fall of man has to do, the fall of man refers to a psychological event that takes place in the life of every human being, right? But it, it refers to a part of humanity's history before humanity became intellectual bounded, right? Or intellectually addicted, right? He experiences humanity in its pure form, its original form, right? But to fit into any environment, he needs to shape his perception, which shapes his experience of the environment and himself. So instead of experiencing himself as he is, right? He 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 creates a kind of substitute identity, which is based on your name, your religion, uh, property, status, all these things you identify with and call that your identity. But that is a form of self-ignorance because it actually ignores what you are. There's what you are and what you have become. What you are has become subconscious because you have become a socially adjusted human being. In other words, people no longer experience what they are in its pure form. A child doesn't have a mind to interpret its self-awareness or self-experience. A child experiences its reality in its pure form. It's not filtered or edited, right? But to fit in, you have to internalize the informational diet that is dominant in your environment, internalize it, and then regurgitate it. A lot of people don't realize that we don't deal with reality directly. We deal with reality through the medium of language. Observe, anything you don't have a name for doesn't exist. You say your world is made up of things, but your world is really made up of words that you use that use as a symbol for things. So it's a situation where your perception is tailored so you can fit in. But this tailoring is distorted because it denies you the ability to see things as they are. If 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 you experience your humanity in its true form, you realize that there's no observer and no observed, you know. There's only observation. Right? This division of human experience in the form of the self, the I and the not I, right? That is a psychological structure that culture has imposed on us. And we experience being alive as though with a sense of dualism. You here and the world there. But when you really understand what you're calling the world is made up of the things that you see. You cannot see things without the eyes. And if you truly understand how the eyes operate, you realize that the eye is really a window, or the the eye the eye the eye in conjunction with the brain and nervous system create a map of the territory of reality. It is important to have a map. In this particular civilization of man, a map is being used. There were civilizations of humanity where words weren't necessary, and you know why? Because thought we we were able to pick up other people's thoughts. We were able to see telepathy.
Yeah, you're saying that was our occurrence in the past.
We fell from that.
Wow.
We fell from all lies part of the implications of the fall. We fell into the need for language when originally we were intuitive. And because even science today can verify that when you're thinking, you're sending out electrical impulses, right? So anybody around you can pick them up. So there's no need for words. Words create the possibility of deception and hypocrisy. All lies part of the fall. You know.
So let me ask you before you close. You're saying who we are, like it receded in the subconscious, right? Who we truly are. We are this like socially artificial people who have an artificial sense of identity.
Yeah.
And that pushes who you really are into the realm of subconscious, something so?
And it is not so much it is subconscious, right? But it becomes subconscious to you because it still exists, it cannot be destroyed, but it is operating under the consciousness that you're thinking, which is the language and all that creates. Thinking is tied up with language. And thinking is what creates consciousness. Like right now, your attention is here. You're conscious of what's going on here. If I ask you where you live, you would automatically become conscious of where you live. And that would make here kind of recede at the background. Consciousness is created by the thought process. Consciousness is of things. Right? You can become conscious of something that is not within the immediate environment. Consciousness comes like a certain kind of freedom, a freedom from immediate perceptual limitations. You know, but there's more to you than your consciousness. There's awareness. Consciousness comes and covers over awareness. But observe everything you're conscious of. Consciousness in itself is a form of awareness, you know. But it has to do with awareness that includes meaning, cultural meaning, culturally created meaning, right? It is important to be able to see without naming and then name. I say that because once you can see, right, then you can select the right words or the right terminology to do justice to what you're seeing. But for most people, seeing happens only after they name something. This is a totally different type of seeing. As a matter of fact, there's not seeing, they're looking.
So I mean, before we close, this awareness of who you really are, is it safe to say, or could one argue that it haunts a person who may have adopted this artificial sense of who they are, the real awareness of who they are constantly haunts them throughout their lifetime, you think? Or
it haunts you haunts you in the form of sorrow, right?
Yes.
Because you're out of balance.
Yeah.
You're not experiencing what you actually are.
Yeah.
And you know, while individuality is real, individuality does not include separation. Right? It's like if if you look at your hand, right? Your fingers are individual units, right? But they're all unified by the palm. Individuality makes functional independence possible, which has its benefits. Right? But anytime you lose sight of the unity that underlies functional independence, it means that you went to the arena of distortion. Then you're compromising reality. And who you compromise reality? See that you are real. So when you compromise, you end up selling yourself short. This thing real fucking annoying me, boy.